this was in 2007 when I had a real long out-of-body near-death experience. And I was traveling in Indonesia with my best friend, Lali. And I just want to backtrack a little bit to give you more context so that you really understand. Since I'm a little girl, I've been channeling extreme amounts of light. And I said to my mom at a young age, Mom, this light that comes through me, I feel heat and tingles, and I know if I send it to people, I can heal them, and animals and plants. I know this is healing light. And my mom and my dad, they really helped me to believe and keep believing in all the magic that I experienced. Like I was talking to angels and loved ones who have passed, and I could see the color of their aura, and I can see, hear, and feel beyond this dimension. And so this is already happening for me. And at the age of 18, I knew I got to find a teacher, and I found a teacher, and I trained in becoming a healer. So by the time I had my near-death experience, I was already very connected, had done a lot of courses and trainings and workshops, so it really developed my ability and my intuition and my channeling. And I was living in London, working at Wembley Arena, which is a world-famous venue. I was a marketing executive. I was loving life. I was in my 20s. I was meeting people like Kylie Minogue and famous musicians and just, in the peak of life. And then, like 2 years of doing this work, the cold, I'm sensitive to weather, and I mean, I'm sure many people who are watching this, you're sensitive to energies and different things. So actually, it was just the weather that inspired me then to move into something new. And my boyfriend at the time, my friend Lolly, and myself, we decided we're going to leave England. We're going to travel a bit, and then we're going to go work in Thailand. So I knew that I'm going to be flying into Bali, to Indonesia by myself. So I found a Canadian Reiki Master Teacher who was living in Bali, and she trained me. And so just before my near-death experience, I had this beautiful, profound attunement. Reiki Masters is the highest level that you can be attuned to. So I was attuned to open my channel fully to be able to bring in more light into the body. And so that I feel like was very important. And something else that's important to share is my connection with Lolly, because she's the one who saved my life. So this is something that happened. I was walking to work to Wembley, and I was walking, and all of a sudden I was like in two places at once. Back then, this is years ago, like 18 years ago, we didn't have the words like remote viewing, I don't think. I think these are all, we're coming up with new words. And so, but it kind of was that. Or it was out of body experience, but I left my body while I was still walking to work, and I went to visit Lolly. I went into her room, and she was getting ready for work, and I was just saying, "Hi, Lolly. Lovely, like I'm here with you. Lovely, I just love you. I'm with you." And just, yeah, it was a quick connection. And then I was back walking to work, and she messaged me and she said, "Nats, you just visited me in my room." That's crazy. And I was like, so it really happened. And so, it was just showing how deep our connection is. Now, let's go back to the near-death experience. So now I'm traveling in Indonesia with Lolly. We go to the Gili Isles. We get told that you could get malaria or dengue, so you could take medicine. So we just take local medicine. And there's this one day when I look in the mirror and I see a mosquito bite here. And there's something inside of me that's like, oh. But that's it. I'm in my 20s. I'm going out with friends, eating, drinking, surfing, having fun, not really thinking about it. And by the time we leave the island, I start getting really tired, and someone says, you should pay attention to that. It could be malaria. Meanwhile, I'm just like, So I start getting heavy fever every night. And so I was just like, oh, well, I'll take a paracetamol. I feel like my happy-go-lucky energy kind of also saved my life. I didn't take it all too seriously. And then there was this one evening where I got this message, and it said, time's running out, or like you need to do something. You need to take action, like something warning me about time. And I was like, oh, well, I guess we're going to be leaving Bali soon. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go shopping and buy gifts for everyone. So off I go with the last bit of energy I have. Lolly's somewhere else buying gifts. I'm buying gifts here. And then all of a sudden it happens. Something in my brain, it went, like everything went to like fractals and black. I managed to get myself into a restaurant and sit down. And I got this message, order soup and get Lolly. So I energetically left my body, called Lolly. She came, I got soup, and then she took me to the hotel room. Once again, I'm still this young 20-something-year-old. So I'm like, don't worry about me. But also something else was happening. I was losing my mind. Like my brain was being affected. So the way in which the mind channels messages into the body, which then that communicates the brain, which sends to the cells, that wasn't happening properly. And so I told her, I'll be fine, you go. So off she went to go have dinner. And then I left my body. So I found myself outside. I found myself with the angels and in this like golden pink light. And I could feel the angels just loving me, and they said, not now, get back in that body now. And so all my energy was back in. And when I came back in, I realized I wasn't speaking English. I was speaking something, I don't know what. And I was talking to the fan. So I'd lost my mind. I'd gone crazy. And so luckily, I could use my energy to call Lolly. She came back, and when she found me, she said I was gone. She said I was speaking no nonsense, and she knew it was urgent. So she carried me over her shoulders down the road, and everyone that was like outside on the steps outside this club were laughing at me because they thought I was drunk. Meanwhile, this was serious. I was dying. So she managed to like carry me and get me in a taxi and get me to the most closest like little clinic. And when I got there, they were like, oh, this is bad, we need to get blood. So because I was so dehydrated from such high fever, they couldn't put the needle in. They couldn't find a vein, and so eventually they did. And then they went off, and during this time I was kind of in and out. I could feel a warm presence of angels. I could feel Lolly. I could feel the room. So I was like half in, half out, which was a very interesting feeling. And then I could kind of focus my energy back when the nurses came to speak to me. And they came and they said that they've ruled out dengue. I've got malaria. They just have to check which one. And then after some time, I think I was in this hospital for like 2 days. So maybe it was like in the first day they came back and they said, there's 5 different types. You've got the worst one. It kills you. It's attacking your brain and your kidneys and your lungs and your blood, and you're dying. So we're going to do the best we can do. And I just got to tell you, I got to backtrack a little bit now. The day I was packing to leave to go on this trip, my sister and her husband came to my house, and her husband said, hey, Natalie, have you got travel insurance? I was like, no, I don't have that. He's like, give me your card. Let me just get this for you. I paid £50 back then for travel insurance, which really saved my life, because what happened then was that I had to be airlifted, an urgent emergency sent, because in Bali they couldn't help me. And so because I had lost my mind, I said to the doctors, oh no, don't worry about me, just let me out, I'm fine. Look, I'm fine, just let me out, let me go back, I just want to go back to the hotel. And so what they had to do was get my travel insurance to phone me and actually let me know how bad it was. So they said, Natalie, if we don't get you within hours to Singapore, to an ICU, to one of the top hospitals in the world, you're gonna say goodbye. It's it. So that made me kind of come back into my body again and take it more seriously. So I kind of, at this stage, I don't remember much. I kind of remember being in the airplane vaguely and then getting to this ICU. And in the ICU, I remember this voice saying, you've got to get somewhere quiet so we can be with you and help you to get through this. This is going to be a long process. And so I put all my energy back in my body and managed to say to the people, the nurses and the doctors, I don't think I need to be in ICU. Can I please have a room? Meanwhile, I really did need to be in ICU, but somehow they listened to me. I got into a room, and there I started to feel a peace. Like this, I get such goosebumps, this most incredible peace that I hope you can feel, because that's the energy that was coming, was like coming down and becoming a part of me. And then, but I was sharing a room with someone, and they were in pain. They were crying so much, and I was getting really sensitive to sound, taste, touch, anything. I was super sensitive. So I then asked if they could please move me to a private room. They moved me to a private room, and when that happened, I was able to leave my body. And my friend said that I was totally white. She said she's never seen such white lips. She said I was gone, and this was 2 weeks. I don't know if you call it a coma or what, but I was gone. And so I left my body and I went back home, and I was met by 120 angels, the 120 angels that I channel. And they said to me, Natalie, this was always part of your destiny. This was soul contract. This is like part of your life plan. And then they joked around. They said that I said to them when I was a soul before I was born, that I need them to be with me my entire life. These are like the Natalie rules of coming to Earth. If I come to Earth, 1, I need you to always be with me. 2, I need a chance to come back home and feel you again. And 3, please don't ever leave me. And so there they said, Natalie, this was always part of your destiny. You were always going to come back to us because this is what you requested. And so don't worry, you are going to live. And we are going to teach you some important things that you are going to teach the world. And you've come down to Earth to bridge angels with humans. You are an angel, and you are going to remember that. And slowly with time, you're going to be able to accept that you're an angel on Earth and that you are one of us. And so we're going to help you. And right now, what's most important is we're going to show you something. And they showed me this cord of light that was from me. I was this being of light. And they showed me this cord of light going to my body. And they said, the light of your soul is feeding your body. It's keeping you alive. And we're going to keep feeding your body so that it stays alive. But then there's going to be a point where you're going to need to go back because otherwise your body won't last. And in this time, you're going to be here with us. So welcome home. And I was just like, this is what I needed. And, as a teenager, there were times where I found Earth way too much and I begged to go back home. So I was just in bliss. I was so happy to be home with them. And so what they started to show me was different frequencies, different colors. And they showed me when you use pink light and you beam it into the heart, something incredible happens to the heart. It just starts glowing. It's the energy of self-love and true acceptance. And then they showed me green is this like abundance and trust, and it brings your true nature. I mean, all the colors. And they showed me how I could focus, how I could use my mind to focus more energy into my body to make sure that my cells can maintain a certain level. They showed me that we, the light that we are, can heal our physical body. So I spent this time with them, and they reassured me that I am going to be channeling them and bridging angels with humans to let everybody on earth who's ready to know that the angels are here to support everyone, that everyone has their own team of angels. And so, meanwhile, in between spending this time with them, I would dip in and come back into my body. I had to maintain it. I would come back into my body. I had to bring all my soul light back into my body. And when I came back into my body, it was like heavy and sick and like tinnitus. I could hear high frequencies, the highest frequencies, because I was so tuned into the angels, and everything was like so sensitive and aching and painful to be in the body. But I knew I had to bring all my soul light back in so that it could start to heal. And then I would try to eat a bit or have some watermelon juice. I remember once, and my friend reminded me of this, that I even asked her to shower me, to help me to shower. And I was weak. So I had awareness to like look after my body when I was in it. And then I would go off again. And then it happened where it was the final time I was allowed to be with the angels. And it was really hard to leave them. So I spent just time being bathed in their love and feeling at home. And then they said, it's time because your body doesn't have much left. And actually what was happening with the doctors at this time is they were telling my friend Lolly that, and they were watching my numbers. I don't know what numbers, but my numbers hadn't increased for an amount of time that my parents were going to fly through and come and say goodbye. And so because the numbers had to increase like within minutes, hours, in order for me to survive. And so that's when I had to come back in. And so I said, not goodbye to the angels, just goodbye in that frequency of being so easy to communicate telepathically, just so light, so loving, just like being hugged by the warmest, being held in a cocoon of the warmest love is the way I can describe it. And it's dense coming to earth, and it's heavier and thick, especially coming into a body that's pained. And so I said goodbye in that kind of sense and brought all my light, and I had to use my mind. The mind is so powerful. This is why I teach about the mind, because the soul, the light that we are, can use the mind to create anything. And if it's aligned with the soul, which when it comes from the soul, we can create. That's how we manifest. When it comes from the soul, we create. So I used all of that power of my mind and my soul light to bring me fully back into my body. So my soul was fully back. That's what we talk about when you're grounded, you're embodied. And yeah, it was uncomfortable. But what started to then happen was very, very slowly, to the relief of my family and the doctors, my numbers went up a little bit every day. And what I could still hear the angels and feel them. I was still hearing that high frequency. I could start to eat. The light started to come back to the blood started to move. The organs started to recover. My brain, it's incredible because, it's kind of like I was brain dead. I don't know what you would medically call it, but my brain has fully recovered because of the light that I brought back in. And this is why I believe in Reiki, which is universal light. I believe that we can heal ourselves. And so, as long as we believe. And so I believed so strongly. I knew I was meant to come back. And so I brought all the light in. I healed myself fully. And then I had a call with the same person who I'd spoken to earlier from the travel insurance. And they said to me, Natalie, it's our protocol to send you back to England because that's where you flew from. And I was like, please don't. I feel so good. Please let me keep on going. Let me go to Thailand. That's where I'm meant to go. And they said yes. And so I fully recovered and healed, and I walked. I went on the wheelchair, but then I managed. Then I got up and I walked with me and my 120 angels, walking into the next phase of my life, and went to Thailand. And I just want to share like 3 miracles that happened in Thailand. First of all, I met this lady who's very psychic, and she said, "Turn around, I want to see your back." And I mean, I had someone translating because she spoke Thai. She looked at my back and she said, "You're an angel." The markings on my back, I've got lots of freckles and moles, and the energy, she could see my wings. To be honest, it's taken up till very recently for me to fully accept and say I'm an angel on earth. And so that happened, and then I went to like a ceremony to sit with beautiful Thai monks, and I was there, and the monk looked at me and he said, "I'm not here to lead the ceremony, Natalie, you are." And so he asked me to guide, and so I started then stepping into more and more of the teacher role. I'd already been a healer, but being a guide for others. And then I trained with Diana Cooper. I did a course on angels, and so it all developed from there. And here we are today, where I am teaching like so many courses and guiding so many people with the colors and elements. And I mean, the angels just channel through me all the time. I'm learning new things every day from them. And so I bring this light, and I bring the angels to you and to everyone who's here. I feel more alive than I've ever felt to be able to share the story today.
But why do you think it was important for you to have this experience, looking back on it? And what, outside of, the practical things of learning about the colors and the frequencies, what has this experience brought to you?
Wow, what an incredible question. Just want to feel into it. And immediately the first thing that comes through is my life. I feel like I couldn't be me without that experience. I had to fully go back home and reconnect so deeply while still having a body. So it makes me me. There's a certain frequency that I am, and because I had that experience, I feel like I can hold more light, I can channel deeply, I can have these profound experiences where like sometimes I'm sitting and all of a sudden the whole room will turn into UV light, and then the room will disappear, and I'm not scared when that happens. And it's just a moment, and then it comes back. And so it's given me like deep courage and faith and connection. Like I know what the truth is. I know that the light is the truth. And I know that this place that we're in is a mind-made dream that we get to create. So it's really like harnessed the truth of why we're here. Yeah. It makes me feel like I'm more of an all-round teacher, because I understand, like I've gone through depression and sadness, and like I understand the human side and I understand the spiritual side, and I'm able to sit with both of them at the same time. And I feel like that's what it's gifted me. There's a part of me that knew I'm a healer, but there's still that ego. There's still that lower third dimensional mind that blocks. And so it really, because I lost my mind. So I lost that third dimensional logical mind for those weeks. And so, and only had it sometimes. And through that losing of the mind, it's really helped to show me that we have these logical beliefs that are not real, but that they keep us small, they keep us trapped. And like I've made it my work to dissolve anything that's blocking me from being what I can be and how I can share. So, and I really know that anyone who goes through a near-death experience or gets an illness or is going through a learning in that way, it's soul contract stuff. It's meant to be, because because there's something deep inside of you that that wants to be seen, that wants to be healed and released, to set you free, so that you can learn new things and expand into new ways. So I feel like everything that we experience, like every disease and illness, is a gateway, a portal to an opportunity to bring more of the light that we are into our body, and to live more consciously. And like, I notice with my clients, like someone will come to me with like deep pain or something, like an illness. And when I get to the root is often, and that it's like a soul contact, that it's a very important part, and also that that there's like mental patterns and emotional blockages and traumas that are blocking the flow, the life force flow of the soul, because that soul light needs to get into the body to keep the body in its full vitality, that you feel fully alive. And if there is any blockage, like if you, for example, have a belief that you don't deserve to be seen, and you feel small and you don't speak up, and over time that will create an energy blockage, and so the light that comes in will kind of meander around it to get its way down. And so then we'll get like a thyroid gland issue or whatever it is, so that you can learn that there's been a belief system and an emotional blockage there, and that you can work through it and release it and come back to full vitality.
Oh, could you tell me more about what you were able to unlock and what you took away from that experience?
Yeah. So this experience happened when I was in a retreat doing breath work. So it's circular breathing, where you don't pause at the top or bottom of the in and out breath. You just continuously breathe. So there's a lot of oxygen in the body, and a lot of energy in the body. My whole body started to contort. I felt like pins and needles. It's kind of like you feel like metallic. It's weird. Your body feels metallic, and then my body felt super heavy. And next minute, I was out of my body, and I was with the angels, and I realized I was with them planning my birth and planning my life, and what they showed me at this time was how precious it is to be human. And they showed me that it's not so easy to be expansive light and then condense into a physical body. As that condensing happens, as we start to like have more of a third dimensional mind, as we get an ego, the soul, which is the higher frequency part of the mind, and the ego start to really, they're one first. They're first one, and then they start to like become two separate parts. And so I noticed that as I was preparing myself and getting ready to be born, there was resistance. I didn't want to. I was crying. I was saying, angels, don't leave me. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And to actually share with you, I was born on the loop. So my parents weren't planning another child, but I chose them. They had to have me, and so when my mom started bleeding during the pregnancy, and they realized that I was being born on the loop, and there was risks, she got so many people to pray for me. So I had a lot of prayer. And so at this time of me as a soul coming down and getting ready to be fully in the body for the birth, so what I was shown then was that you're in the body, but you're also all around the body, but all the energy needs to be there. And so I was crying to the angels, don't leave me, don't leave me. And they said, we're never going to leave you. We're going to be with you. And what was happening during the retreat was actually that I was crying. So the facilitators had brought me like a shamanic feather and a rattle and put it in my hands. But I wasn't in my body, so I didn't really know about what was happening there. I was fully with the angels, and then I experienced the energy of being in the womb. I don't really fully remember the actual birth. I kind of remember the energy around it. it's a lot of light and a lot of love and a lot of support and a lot of like, this is it. Here you go. You're going onto earth. You know, this is a miracle. It's so special to have the human experience, that kind of feeling. And then like nervousness and retraction, but then like a bolt of lightning that goes, just do it. And then having an extreme power and light to be born. And then being there, held by my mother, and feeling the energy of love and people around me, and feeling the angels. And that was really important for me, that I was born, I was in a body, and the angels were still there with me.
I think we fear the end, or we fear death, but I don't know if we fear it because, of course, we only get to experience the real death one time. I don't know that we know that it's bad, so that's why we're afraid. I believe that it's because we don't know what it is and we don't remember where we came from, that there's this fear around the unknown. So I find the two things of not wanting to come to this earth and then also not wanting to leave because of the unknown, I find it quite interesting. Do you have a perspective on that?
I love what you've just said, because that's so true. So we have a similar vibratory experience of resistance of the unknown, and we have it throughout our life. And it's our biggest gift, because if we can, while we're alive, if we can face any resistance, anytime we feel fear, anytime we are nervous or scared, it's the primary fear of the fear of the unknown that we're feeling. And if we can embrace it and sit with it and breathe into it, if we can do it while we're alive, it means that by the time we're ready to pass and die, it means that we will die without any resistance or attachments. We'll actually consciously be able to move our energy up our chakras and vibrate here at the crown chakra. And then with our final out breath and final beating of the heart, we'll lift our soul energy out. And from that place, we'll no longer be running the wheel of karma, which is cause and effect, because we'll be conscious. Conscious dying means that you don't come back to earth based off a previous vibration, a previous attachment or resistance. You're fully free. That's how. So, I mean, this is a huge topic, but just to come back to that resistance, it happens at birth and death and throughout our life to give us opportunities to overcome it, and to actually face the truth is that God, consciousness, the oneness, is actually this beautiful emptiness. It's this beautiful unknown space. It's the unknown. And if we can get comfortable and break through any fears that block us from coming home to the unknown, we can come home to consciousness while we're in a body. We can be consciousness embodied. And so I feel like it's a gift, birth, death, and in between.
So how does the holding on impact our vibration and therefore the karmic consequences that we can face or not face, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, it does. So it kind of feels like here in this 3D beautiful dream world, mind-made dream, that our lower mind, the ego, it attaches to highs, to feeling good, and it repels lows or uncomfortable feelings and thoughts. And so when we are able to witness this and notice this and be okay to sit in an uncomfortable feeling, and also to be okay to know that in this 3D world, everything's impermanent. Anicca, it's impermanent. And so it means that when we can truly harness that, and we can intellectually understand things, but it takes a bit of time to energetically experience it and know it. And so when you start to know that that everything here is impermanent, that this is a beautiful dream that you're dreaming, and that that everything here, it's an appearance based off your vibration. So how you're vibrating, what you believe in. When you have thoughts attached with emotion, it creates your frequency, which creates the appearance, the reality that you experience. And so when you get to really understand that, then you actually naturally detach. You actually naturally realize, oh wow, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this dream. This is incredible. And so everything comes and goes. So I can just be in the presence of it. I don't need to push and fight so hard, because the lower mind, it runs off fear and it pushes us to do things. And that's uncomfortable. That's a contraction. It also makes us respond to what we call like a human love. It'll be like, oh, something's missing, so I need another person in my life. That's also not the truth. The truth is that you are already right here in the present moment, divinity, divine perfection, perfect light. You are love. So you don't need anything in the 3D world. This 3D world is a place for you to experience yourself, the oneness, as a separate experience. And so, I mean, it's taken me years to fully embody what I teach, like fully, I vibrate it. It's taken years, and I'm still in the process of dissolving the lower mind's old, conditions. But it's so worth doing, because I've now gotten to a place where I'm an embodiment of this truth, and I can feel it and vibrate it. And so, and I can like know that anything and everything that happens in this reality is a reflection of what I'm vibrating. So I'm responsible for it all. So I can't blame anyone or anything else. So that means no resistance. It means you're always taking responsibility and knowing like, this is my life. You're empowered. And so I also know that this reality is a beautiful dream that I'm dreaming. And so I'm not attached to it. I know that like if something awful happens to me, there's this feeling of, I created it. This is part of my life. It's okay. I'll flow through it. I'll get through it. I know that I've got the light in me to move through it. So there's no resistance, or there's no attachments. Like I don't feel like that excitement anymore of life. I just feel like a kind of a state of contentment and peace. And so I feel like that's the state that is available to everyone, because that state is our true nature. And where is it? Here, right now. So I don't believe in spirituality that you need to seek being spiritual. I believe you need to return back to the fact that you are already spirit. That's your nature. You've just had lots and lots of layers of a mind, an ego that's made you think other things. So dissolve those layers and come back home to what you already are.
What is your suggestion to unlearn, all of these taught ideas and taught ideology that we've come to embody, so that we can find that spirituality underneath, and we can reconcile with the fact that we are love, we are all divine oneness, and there's not somebody who's more divine than me and another person who's less, but we're just as beautiful and special and divine beings of light.
Yeah, brilliant to ask this, because I'm going to go into it in a moment. And I also wanted to just share with you, I was actually born in South Africa. Yeah, I was born in South Africa, and then I moved to England for a bit, and yeah, so I have the South African and the English. I am married to a British beautiful soul, so I understand like the cultural, like what we learn through the culture, and to be honest, it's the same in South Africa. The unworthiness, it's the same everywhere in this world. I've worked with celebrities and royalty. They've got it. I've worked with people that are absolutely poor on the street. They've got it, and everywhere in between. So it's an interesting one. So why do we all carry up this part of the ego that actually is a self-sabotage? There's a reason. Part of spiritual awakening, if everything was just amazing here on earth, because when we're born, the veil of the mind comes over and we forget. Even me, who's been super spiritually connected, I forget, and I have forgotten many times. It can happen in a moment where all of a sudden you're so busy in your thoughts that you forget that you're the soul, having a momentary human experience. So we forget that's part of it. That's part of the whole experience. And so, in order for us to remember, we have to have something in place here that causes pain and suffering, that makes it not so, it's no longer the Garden of Eden. It's no longer the most perfect, beautiful heaven on earth. And so it's our own mind. We've all got it. Our own mind is cruel to us. And it judges us and it criticizes others. And so what it does is it's playing its role perfectly to wake us up. It self-sabotages. It pokes at itself because it is not the true reality. The ego is not who we are. And so if the ego was just love and kindness, we'd never take a mirror and look at ourselves. We'd just fully be the ego. We'd fully have the human experience, and we wouldn't have the opportunity to wake up and remember what we truly are, that we're a soul, that we're actually, even go further, we're consciousness having a human experience. And so it's playing its role perfectly. And so when you start to notice, at first we believe it, we believe everything it says, and we suffer. And then something happens and we start to notice, oh, I have a voice inside of me that's actually dark. That's actually, I sometimes call it the monster. And then something happens. That's the first step, because there's a distance that's created. You're no longer identifying as your ego. You're no longer thinking you are the emotions and the thoughts. You're realizing that you're something else. You're the awareness of this mind that thinks and the emotions that feel. And that creates a distance. And that's the part of waking up. And then what develops is you. The awareness starts to retract from the mind, and you're less focusing your light, your awareness on the mind. You have glimmers and glimpses of stillness, of connection to the greater essence of what you are. And so as that starts to happen, it's an ever unfolding process. And the good news is, once it's happened, it will always unfold. So if you have woken up and you realize, oh, I'm a soul, I have a mind, I experience emotions, you are destined, whether it's this lifetime or a future lifetime, to fully awaken and to fully release all of those patterns of the mind. Because every belief that you hold, every single one, even the ones you like, are mind-made. They're not real. No belief is real. And so when you're able to actually use, and the great thing is, you've got to use your mind to truly see your mind, so that you no longer believe everything you think. And so first there was oneness. When oneness created the most powerful thing, which is mind, and mind keeps on creating. Through the mind, we left oneness. Back through the mind, we return to oneness. And so, be vigilant. Stay aware. You are the awareness. Observe the mind, and you will notice every pattern, every condition that you've taken on from your culture, from your ancestors, from society, that's in your programming. And unbelieve it all, because none of it's real. Unbelieve it all. Let it all go. And some of them are so hard, like the ego clings to them. But the actual process of dissolving those beliefs is by seeing them. The light of you seeing those patterns dissolves them. And then you clear out. It's like a room that's full of furniture. And then you shine this light in it, and the furniture starts to dissolve, the room starts to empty. And in that emptiness, the ego empties. And so the ego that was once who you were identifying with is now more spacious. And in that space, your higher self, your soul, is communicating. And that's when you get deep intuition and hear the angels. and it's all available to us. We just need to empty that room, empty the ego, and get the ego to work for us, the soul. Can I release it? And then just breathe in the light and breathe out the biggest sigh. And it goes. And you might need a few sighs for some deep ones. And don't feel bad about forgetting this. I forget every day. It happens. It's the program of the ego is so powerful here that it can happen in a moment where I'll just be doing something and I'll like, oh, whoa, I was so fully in my task of playing the role as Natalie that I forgot the truth of what I am. And so that's the joy of being able to wake up so many times throughout the day. And every time you go again, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a soul in a body. It feels so light.
Oh, sometimes life is hard. We get challenges, we sort of lose our way, and we sort of know that we need to find something deep within us, but it's just hard to do. Do you have any, I don't want to call it a quick fix, but is there any kind of like exercise that you recommend for us to sort of be a bit more in tune to our spiritual self?
Definitely. Two things are coming. One is the breath. Breath is spirit. You don't use the lower mind, the logical mind, to breathe. It's the higher mind. It is the great intelligence. It's consciousness. It's the oneness that's breathing the life through you. So to be able to connect to that infinite space and that expanded light that you are is to come to the breath and just observe the natural breath. Follow one in-breath. Follow where you are breathing in your body. Follow an out-breath, where it moves and how that energy and light flows outside. And then you can activate the breath. So you can take a deep, strong, powerful in-breath, breathing in through the nose. And as you breathe in through the nose, you activate the third eye chakra, where you can have powerful visions, start to see colors and energies, and have experiences beyond the 3D. So you breathe in strongly through the nose, hold the breath in for a moment, and then breathe out through the mouth. Breathing in, out. And then you can speed it up. If you speed it up, you'll have like an energetic experience. What this does, it's powerful. It raises your frequency. It brings more light into your body. And then you feel the light that you are again. So that feels like an important tool to use. And then the other thing that's coming in is that just ask yourself, and I love doing this throughout the day. I say to myself, hey, Natalie, where actually are you experiencing this moment from? Where are you? Come back into the room. Come back into your body. Be here now. So you can ask yourself that. Where am I? Where am I experiencing this from? And it brings you and all your energy into the present moment. It's powerful. It's one of these questions that are actually an activator. So not only do you intellectually understand the question and the answer, but you'll have an energetic experience.
For everybody that wants to know more, how can they find you? Where can they find you? And how can they get to work with you?
Yes, so there's 3 places to come and join my community. I've got a loving YouTube community, which is Natalie Namaste Healer. And I channel the angels. I do energy updates. People can ask questions and I'll channel the answers in videos. And then I've got my Instagram, which is where I give like daily tools to help you to be a soul having a human experience, like really grounded down. And my Instagram is Natalie Namaste with an underscore at the end. And then the third place is my website. It's natalienamaste.com. And there's many resources there. So just go and spend some time there. On the very first, the homepage, there's a meditation, a free gift that you can sign up for, and then become a part of my email community where I give a lot of love and support as well. And then you can also have a look at all the different, I offer courses, Reiki courses, I offer workshops, I do profound meditations. I have I have every 11th of the month, because 11 is the oneness energy. So it's $11 to join, and I have hundreds of people from all around the world join. It's a 30-minute group session, and I have beautiful guests like Suzanne Giesman or like Marcy Scheimoff, like, that come on and also offer gifts. So that's every 11th of the month. It's called Group Channeling and Meditation. So there's a lot that I'm offering. There's a lot that you can come and receive. I also do one-on-one sessions, but you need to email me to get on the waiting list for that.
We were at outdoor swim meet for our son, and the swim meet was postponed because there was the sound of thunder way in the distance. You couldn't see the storm that was approaching because it was still pretty far away. But with the sound of thunder, the lifeguards postponed the meet. And my youngest son was getting pretty tired of sitting around waiting for things to get going. And so I took him back to the car, put him in the car, which is a really lucky thing in the end. Because soon after I did that, I didn't know what it was at the time, but everything around me just exploded. Bright white light and the sound of, you know how loud thunder can be, but if a bolt of lightning strikes right next to you, the sound is unbelievable. It's like a huge bomb, really. And again, at the time I didn't know it was lightning. All I knew was I was being electrocuted and didn't know why. And as many describe, time really slowed down. It was like in slow motion. I had enough time as I was being electrocuted to think to myself, well, but wait, I'm wearing rubber sandals. I should be insulated. I couldn't really look around. I was convulsing from the electricity. Actually, people saw me bouncing in the street. And I had enough awareness to know that if this electric shock continued, I wouldn't survive, but I couldn't do anything about it. And then it threw me, as often happens with lightning, and I landed on my head. And there's about, I'd say about 10 minutes sort of missing, where a huge storm arrived. There was hail, pouring rain, lightning, trees down. It actually took the ambulance over a half hour to come because the roads were impassable because of the storm. They got me eventually out of the gutter, out of the water, and into a car because I couldn't walk. I was partially paralyzed. And it wasn't until about 6 months later, and really struggling with the immune system problems, really bad chronic pain, especially short-term memory loss, and the trauma from having been electrocuted and, well, coming very close to death, that I was regressed back to that experience to help process the trauma that was really hindering my ability to function in life. And it was during that regression where I recovered those missing minutes, where I was really unconscious. And the first part of the regression was a little bit scary because the trauma that was lodged in my body started to release. And in a way, the body started to react as though it was being electrocuted again. I was shaking and bouncing. But it was in releasing that, letting it sort of pass through my body, that then I really recovered the memories from my near-death experience, where I could see my body on the ground laying dead and realizing, well, I'm not dead. I still have consciousness. I'm still aware. And I think that's something that some people believe, whether it's a religious belief or a more esoteric belief, that some part of our consciousness continues, or that we have a soul, or that we survive death in some way. We can read about it, we can listen to videos about it. Really truly experience yourself as being alive and aware even though your body is not, is, well, it's beyond transformational. It really is no longer a belief or a thought or a philosophy, but a knowing in yourself that something of me continues even if my personality or my human body isn't alive anymore. And I think that's a big question that most or all of us really have or wonder about. And so that's not a question in my mind any longer, and it's not a belief. I think since I was young, I sort of thought that reincarnation made sense, but this is beyond something making sense. It's a knowing that I survive, I continue, I have a soul, I have a spiritual body or being that will survive this human body that's in this lifetime known as Paul. And I think that really changed my perspective about myself and about the world, right? And then after viewing the body like that, I moved away pretty quickly. I didn't have the experience of being met by a personified guide, as many people talk about, a loved one or a guide meeting them. But I did go into a light that gave me the experience of complete and total unconditional love. Again, I think it's a theory, something we strive for, but this was being bathed in complete and total unconditional love. And it's hard to have low self-esteem or self-criticism or think of yourself as less than in some way if you feel so completely and totally embraced in unconditional love. That is something I think we all strive for or long for. But to experience it is so profound. And I like to think that I still carry some of that with me and can include that in part of how I live.
Does it persist afterwards? Do you have to work on it? Or is that knowing that you are loved just as you are, is that something that you're able to take forward with you?
Yeah, really good questions. Yes, it changes you, it changed me, and changed how I live, how I perceive myself and the world. And there's a difference, a kind of disparity between what I know on a soul level, on a higher consciousness level, and what I know as a human being. So after my experience, this greatly expanded experience, the freedom from the limitations of mental mind and human body, after experiencing unconditional love and total oneness with all, like we hear the phrase, we're all one. And again, you can understand the concept, but I experienced being all one or part of all things. And so that changes you as well. But then, yes, once you're in the human body and you have the human ego and the human personality and the qualities of the person, then I don't want to say you lose that, but it's harder to experience it fully. It's harder to live it. I think that's one of the things that when you have a near-death experience that you strive for is to not just re-experience that oneness and that love, but to embody it, to live it. But we still have to struggle with our human personality and limitations. Yeah? It's much harder to think of myself as less than, but some part of my human personality from upbringing and family and culture, some of that still lives in me and is something that I think we all struggle with in some way. But having this as a foundation or an inner knowing makes it much, much easier to deal with all of that.
I wanted to understand the trauma that the experience has left in you immediately afterwards.
Well, one of the most frustrating things was the short-term memory loss. I couldn't do the work that I do because I couldn't remember people's names or what they told me 5 or 10 minutes ago. And there was no way to recover it. You probably heard the story of me pulling into the gas station with my son in the car to put fuel in the car, and he looked at me funny and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I need to put petrol in the car." He looked at me and said, "You just went to the gas station and put petrol in the car. What are you talking about?" And so that was frustrating. I've recovered from that. There was the physical pain of the trauma lodged in my body. I think that a lot of trauma work is about releasing, not just remembering what happened, but releasing the stuck energy, right? The stuck pain, the stuck fear. When I was electrocuted, I, with all my being, fought that, tried to push it out of my body more or less, but it was overpowering. I had no ability to stop that, but it was in the resistance of it that it really lodged and got stuck in my body. And because of that, I had great pain in my back and difficulty walking after that. And it was in the regression that the regression therapist had me do the exact opposite of fighting that. He said, "Well, welcome it." I mean, it's very counterintuitive. It hurt like hell. But he said, "No, welcome it. Welcome it into your body. Don't resist it." And because it was in the resistance that the trauma became lodged in my body. And I think that's a common element of difficulties after a traumatic experience, is that we resist it, we fight it naturally, but then it gets lodged or stuck in our body. And it's finding a way to reconnect with that, even though it's painful to look at that or feel that or remember that, and find a way then energetically to release it, whether it's by talking about it or by something physical, some physical way to release it. And so he helped me release that, and it was in the releasing of it and the welcoming of it, really, that the gifts of the near-death experience really came to me. And so I think that was a big lesson for me too. That's when I recovered the messages that I got while I was out of body. And those were so important for me to remember. Once I was back in physical body, I couldn't remember them. And I think this is one of the things that I've been really interested in exploring, is working with people that have had near-death experiences. And not everyone that's had a near-death experience remembers it. Sometimes the drugs that are administered, especially in heart attack cases or cardiac arrest, induce a kind of amnesia. And as we know from trauma study, that forgetting, not remembering, is one way a human being deals with great trauma. There's a kind of protective mechanism that causes us to forget. But in the remembering can be release of it and recalling or reclaiming the gifts and messages that we receive when we're out of body, when we're so-called dead. And so I was able to do a study in Canada with sudden cardiac arrest patients, along with a cardiologist that organized a group of his patients, and was able to regress them back to a few moments before their heart stopped, and they were in time resuscitated with a defibrillator. And it was unbelievable, the stories that these people could tell about meeting loved ones in spirit, about the procedures that were done on their body while they were unconscious or clinically dead, as well as some of the things that happened. They were often in coma afterwards. They're not asleep, and they're not unaware. They can hear what you're saying. They know what's being done. One of the people was a nurse that was really angry about how they had treated her in the hospital and some of the jokes that they'd made about something. And she was able to recount and tell the doctors or the people that had done the procedure afterwards what they'd done and what she was upset about. So if you have a loved one that's been in coma or is in coma, know that they are quite aware. They just can't respond. They know what's happening. You can talk to them and they will hear you.
And if I understand this correctly, what you're saying is that they will often during that time connect with the other side as well. It's just difficult to remember it after we come back.
That's right. Some do and some don't, but it doesn't mean, but it's recoverable. You can go back there. You can go back through regression or meditation. It's like Eben Alexander, who wrote the book Proof of Heaven. After his experience, it was so amazing, so transformative. He spent years trying to get back to that state, not wanting to die, of course, but wanting to be in that expanded state. And he was able to tap into some of it through meditation. But I had the opportunity to regress him back to that time. And it was the most amazing NDE regression I've ever performed or conducted, because of the love he experienced, the expansiveness he experienced, and that blissful peace that he experienced really just filled the room when I did the session for him. And so it was really a gift for me to conduct that session, but also for him to finally be able to achieve that state once again without the traumatic part, without the getting killed part, or the dying part.
So you were able to recall the messages that you received while you were out of your body. What were those messages?
So, of course, one was first just knowing that we survive, that our body may die, but we continue to live and have consciousness. That was mind-blowing. Unconditional love, feeling so accepted, so okay, which is I hadn't experienced as a human being on earth. One of the messages I got, though, was listen. Okay, they said to me, you have a pretty good mind, but you're too dependent on it. You use it too much. You need to shift, and you need to listen. You need to listen with your heart and your soul. We will guide you. Open yourself more to spirit and listen. And I think that's been a guiding theme in my life ever since, because I think one of the common issues we have as human beings is we rely on our intelligence, on our intellect, and there's so much more to us than our intellect. We need it. It helps us function. Right? I appreciate how my mind works most of the time. But I had to realize and work with the fact that there's something much more to me. And when I began my more spiritual exploration, when I began my life between life regression work, both facilitating and doing it myself, my mental mind was really afraid. You could say resistant, but I think it was afraid of losing control. And basically, it thought, no, if you go down this sort of spiritual path, you're going to go off the rails, you're going to go off track, it's going to be a problem. And I really had to negotiate with my conscious mind, my rational ego mind, and say, no, I know your job is to keep me safe. You've done a really good job of that, help me navigate life on Earth. But there's something more. You work for me, I don't work for you, I think is the dynamic. And it was sort of, no, I have to stay in charge, I have to be in control. And I had to really say, no, this is my being, you need to step back, not go away, not disappear. You know, in hypnosis, some people think that they'll be unconscious or unaware or forget what happens, and that it's not true. That's not what happens. We want mental mind present, but we don't want it holding on to the steering wheel. We want it to let go as much as possible, but be present so that it can learn. And by its presence, it's also a safeguard. It can step in and say, nah, I'm not ready for that, or I don't want to go there. So it's protective in nature. But in its effort to protect me, it was hindering me from listening, from really living the message, one of the big messages that I got during that time. And so it was willing to back off enough that I could then go into spirit and expand consciousness and be more the higher consciousness, the more objective consciousness that I am and that I could achieve without mental mind holding on so tight. And it really gives you a different perspective on life, on the purpose of life, and how you live it. This program, I call it the big three. So there's, in our psychology, in our human nature, there are three big things that I think we all have to learn to recognize and to work with. And it's things that limit us, right? One is stored emotions. We have an emotional experience, and those emotions get lodged in our body. They stay in our psyche. So sad, angry, pain, whatever it might be, these emotions we hold. And when we carry these emotions, there are experiences we'll have during the day that will trigger them. And so instead of responding to what's happening in the moment, we're responding to things that have accumulated from the past. And the next is that when we have a strong emotional experience, we form a belief. It's my fault, I'm not good enough, some belief. And these are very real for us, even if they're untrue. Sorry, maybe you want to cut that. Just give me a second. And in addition to these beliefs, we also form survival strategies. This is the program. It's things that we learn to do to stay safe and to get love and acceptance. And this program runs beneath our level of awareness. And you can do psychoanalysis, you can do psychotherapy, you can do other kinds of transformative trauma work and become aware of these, and then you can work on them, right? The thing that I didn't realize is that beyond the human personality of Paula Rand, my soul, my spiritual being, has experiences over many lifetimes. And in addition to the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience of those lifetimes, my soul, my spiritual being, also carries stored emotions, beliefs, and survival strategies. And it's there that we need to do a lot of our work, because you can look at this life. It's hard to access memories from times pre-verbal when you're really young, and a lot of trauma comes from there in utero before we're even born as our body's developing. But the soul brings in with it emotions from the past, beliefs from the past, and survival strategies from the past. And they can really limit us in this life. And that's where past life regression and life between life regression have great value. It isn't just remembering, oh, I was this person, was I famous or whatever. No, it's working on much of the same things that we work on in this life through psychotherapy, but this is more of a soul therapy, really. I used to think the soul was perfect, and I still believe there's something perfect in our soul, spirit. But souls come to earth to learn. And what did I come here to learn? That's the question, right? What am I learning? What can I learn? What do I need to learn? People want to know what their purpose is. Like, what am I supposed to achieve in the world? And some of us come with great determination to achieve something. But there's also, the biggest element, I think, is what did we come in to learn? And am I learning it? Right? So I did some of my own regression work. I saw 3 lifetimes, not in great detail, but sort of thematic. 3 lifetimes of self-sacrifice, right? Which to me seemed like, oh, that makes me a great person. I can sacrifice myself for others. And in this life was repeating that. And when I did regression work and worked with my guides, they said, you've done this 3 lifetimes, and you're repeating again in this lifetime. Enough already. You have to change this. Look at your own self-worth, your own self-value. No more self-sacrifice. There was more to it than that, but that was the main theme. And even though I knew it, it took me months to steer the ship in a different direction because it was so ingrained. That's this program that you're saying Joe talks about. was sacrifice yourself, do give to others, do for others, and don't worry about yourself. You don't matter, sort of. And even when I understood the principle that I need to do that differently, it took me time to be able to do it, to live it. I got there, but it was real work. And it was so eye-opening to realize that our souls, too, need to learn and grow, and that's really why we come here.
Does it matter? Does it mean that our defaults are also our patterns, and when we have like a default course of action that feels comfortable for us, is that the place where we should be looking for the patterns that we probably would need to break?
Yes, but I would say it in a little different, in a different way. I would say when it feels selfish and when it feels wrong, like if you say no to someone. And for me, when I started to put myself first, it felt really wrong and really selfish. And that's how I knew I was on the right track, because it didn't feel natural. It felt natural to self-sacrifice. And to not do it felt dangerous and mean even, or wrong. And that was the first clues that, oh, okay, here I am on a new track now. I'm starting to get it. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel natural. It is good that I could learn to do that. That was really necessary learning, and it took me, as I said, lifetimes to get there. But how I knew I was on track was when it felt unnatural. Yeah, so it's really, there's something we call breaking trance, right? My wife is really good at it. We do the same work. That's how we met, really. You walk into the post office, and the poor postal worker behind the plexiglass has been dealing with grumpy people all day, and in New York, you can have a whole transaction and never have any eye contact and never anything personal. And she'll ask them, well, how are you feeling today? And they don't even hear it at first. And she'll ask a second time, and then maybe they look up and, why are you asking that? Sort of, Well, just wondering. It must be a long day, and a lot of grumpy people. Oh, and then there's a kind of breaking them out of this bubble or this shell, and now you have a little bit of interpersonal or human contact, and it can really make a person's day. And so I think that one of the themes that we're aware of is, as you go through your day, help break that pattern of just repetitive programming, and people start to wake up again. I think it's, in an indirect way, really helpful, as well as being kind. Saying no didn't come really natural to me either, but I think it's one of the first steps in our personal growth, but also in our soul growth. We do a workshop on finding your no. I have it in my book, Essential Healing. And so one of the survival strategies is being the pleaser, is making other people feel comfortable, other people feel good. But what's it doing to you when you don't say no, when you don't set a boundary? How much of yourself do you give? How much do you sacrifice? And then do you end up feeling resentful, angry, taken advantage of, kind of lose some of yourself? And so I don't think it has to be done in a mean or a cruel way, but I think it's a real theme, is learning to say no and finding that boundary and setting that boundary. And it's beneficial for other people, even if they don't like it at first, because if you've been a pleaser and have people around you they're used to taking and not being told no, and you start saying no, it's confusing for them. But I think that's, in the end, I think that's a good thing, rather than just repeating it.
What would be the signs to tell that this could be helpful to us?
I think if you become aware of yourself in a repetitive pattern, you keep repeating the same sort of thing, whether it's financially or in relationship or in health, right? And you feel stuck with it, you can't do it different or break out of it, then I think regression work can be really beneficial, to go back and explore, where did you learn to behave this way? Where did you learn that it was better or safer to not say no, to say yes when you really mean no? There's some place, some experience or series of experiences where you learn that. You either learned it in childhood, or you picked it up in utero, in the womb, or you learned it in a past life. You said no to someone that didn't like it and they killed you. Or you learned it as a child that it was dangerous to say no. You just had to agree or pretend you liked it, or it was better to try to please and make peace in the family or in life. And so you knew it was dangerous. But I think that regressing back to not just remember the incident or the series of experiences, but to explore, well, what is it you're afraid would happen if you did say no? They won't like me anymore. I'll be abandoned. I'll be beat. I'll be killed. I'll be punished, right? We all have these experiences to one degree or another. And without great consciousness, we've chosen these survival strategies, and then they run like a program beneath the level of our awareness. So going back to do two things: to bring awareness to it, because once you're aware, it's harder to keep repeating it, but you also need to resolve that in some way and say, okay, so that was true back then, that if you said no, it would be a problem, but now it's a problem because you're not saying no. And it's actually safer to say no. You need to put some new awareness, some new program in there as well that's more beneficial now. A lot of our survival strategies, mine was be responsible, make other people feel good at your own expense, right? I learned that around 9, 10 years old. Take care of my brother and sister, make my mother feel better, because if she doesn't feel better, then we're really in big trouble. She's all stressed out, and now I'm trying to comfort her. It's not a 9-year-old's job. And somehow that 9-year-old that was desperate to make mom feel better lived very strong in me. That was my program. And so when I was in a relationship as an adult and things weren't going well, that 9-year-old was freaking out, thinking the world's going to come to an end if I don't make this better somehow. And instead of trying to change my partner or behave differently, the real answer was to go in and connect with that 9-year-old me that was desperate and say two things, really. It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. And the world, well, it's 3 things. And the world's not going to come to an end. You don't have to do it. It's over. All that back there, it's over. And then I could be the adult man in the relationship again and go, okay, and not try to fix it, and not walk into the meat grinder or the windmill again, and not be so desperate. I could be a more mature adult and handle the situations. Even say, I'm going to come back in 10 minutes or in a bit when things are calmer and we can talk about it. Rather than, oh no, if I don't fix this, the world will come to an end. So that was hugely powerful, to go back in regression and connect with the 9-year-old. Do what we call reparenting, tell him, look, I'm an adult now, I can handle it, you don't have to. It just took the pressure off. And so a lot of regression work is in this life. Even people who come for past life regression, often a lot of the work is in this life, before we even get to past life, and resolve it there. And then if there's something we brought in with us, then we can work on it.
It feels, when I hear you talk about this, it feels like there, in this detachment, there's also a lot of pressure that comes off. That's almost unseen pressure, right? If we're in an argument with our loved one, we don't see the pressure that's pushing us to behave in a certain way, but that always exists. And the way we're acting, the things we're saying, the actions we're taking, they're very much derived from that pressure and from us feeling like we'd have no other choice. and we need to force our way into the actions that are familiar. But when we look at it with detachment, we're able to see there's so much pressure that we're able to take off every interaction that we have.
That's the stuck emotions. That's this reservoir of fear or anger or pain or whatever it might be that we carry within ourselves. Yeah? And so one of the questions we ask ourselves is, if I'm being kind to you, for instance, is it to try to please you? Is it coming from fear that if I don't behave nicely, you won't like me, or I'll be abandoned, or I'll be hurt? Or is it coming from love? We have reservoirs of both within us. I mean, the regression work isn't all pain and trauma. Some of it is regressing back to the natural resources we have within us of kindness, love, awareness, spiritual consciousness, really more of our soul self. It's a way to gain access to that too after we sort of have become earthlings or more human beings rather than the spiritual being that we are. So it's retrieving the gifts of great inner wisdom, strength, and power as well. That's something beyond our ego or our wounded ego or our human personality.
So, in your own experience, could you share more about, fighting with this why? I mean, you've had this profound experience. What was your thought patterns, and at which point do you notice that the why question becomes counterproductive? You need to sort of stop asking it and continue to live your life.
I think it's important to reflect on things that happen in our lives, and it's natural to ask why. When I got hit by lightning, that was a big question for me for a long time. Why did I get hit by lightning? And it wasn't until I stopped asking why and started asking, what can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? That I got unstuck. And as long as I held the why, there were many people who told me why I got hit by lightning, right? Even unsolicited. Well, that's because of that weird work you do. You're being punished. God is whacking you up the side of the head, someone said to me. I had a well-known spiritual religious leader tell me, it's because you didn't donate enough to my cause. Another person said, oh, the devil is after you. Someone else said, oh, it's a shamanic initiation. There are Native Americans who try to get hit by lightning. They call them the backwards people, and they walk backwards after it because it's transformational, right? People offered all kinds of opinions. I wondered why too. And to this day, I can't tell you why I got hit by lightning. But I even went to a lightning strike, an electric shock support group. There is actually such a thing. And they talked to me about how much the trauma was going to affect my life. That I could easily have loss of eyesight, tumors, depression, suicidal thoughts. Yes, these things can happen, but from my perspective, that wasn't really a support group. That was a group that was really reinforcing the negative or terrible things that could come from such an experience. And again, I came back to, well, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And began doing my own trauma work, really, to both release the trauma from my body and to recover the gifts. And I did a lot of different things. Some of them may be a little bit crazy, but it was really the regression work that helped both release the trauma that was stuck in my body and help me regain the gifts from it. So I think that we have an experience that we ask why, but I don't think that the answers or the resolution will come from that. I think we have to look from a higher perspective and say, well, what can I gain from this, or what can I learn from this, or what do I need to change in my life, then it's not really coming from such a place of fear as were most of the reasons people were telling me, or even some of the things I was thinking myself. I think it really frees you to move beyond the why and what can I gain from this? What can I learn from this? How can this benefit me or other people? I think that it's natural when someone around you has trauma, is experiencing loss, to want to make them feel better. And I would encourage people to resist that urge to offer advice or make them feel better. Be with them, sit with them, care, listen. You know, when after the lightning strike and after we lost our son, I didn't need advice from people. I didn't need to be told why or what I should do or time will heal it or all these platitudes. They really made me more angry than anything. It was the person that didn't say anything and just sat there with me and let me cry, or let me be in my pain and not try to make it any different. Just the caring, the loving, the presence, the listening, I think were really, in the beginning anyway, were really the most important thing. And then in time helping me explore my feelings and my experience without making them wrong, but just listening and mirroring or reflecting back, helping me explore it on my own, really. Just their caring presence and willingness to listen and let me go through my process, rather than cheering me up or encouraging me or telling me that it'll be better in time. Because, yeah, as time passes, it's less painful, but it doesn't go away. You gain a different perspective, you process some of it, and continue. You learn what you can, and go on from there. But it's a real process, and these well-meaning words of advice or encouragement, especially soon after a loss, aren't helpful, really.
So Paul, for whoever listened to this session and wants to know more about you and wants to find you online, what's the best way they can connect with you?
My website is really the best way, paul@paularand.com. And I do have a book that's available both as an audio book where I read the practices, because there are about 50 practices in there for developing yourself. And it's in print, and it's called Essential Healing. You look up Essential Healing in my name, you'll find it. It's available in English, and it's available in Spanish, and it's available as an audiobook as well. And email is a good way to get me. Thank you. And thank you for doing this. It's so wonderful that you're bringing this to the world and inviting people like me to be here on your show, and for getting it out there. Thanks.